So as you mentioned, there have been some projects that have been presented to the board over time. We took advantage of the opportunity to review the Treasury's guidelines for ARP funding, which was Bennett's suggestion. And we really saw the purpose of the funds to reduce inequities that had existed perhaps before COVID and were made worse during COVID, and to improve those situations. So in looking at what we wanted to propose through our entities, the Housing Committee really focused on this long-term intractable problem. We feel it's a really good use of the ARP funds because they're not going to come again, and we can make some real headway on housing. And we've been 20 years behind the ball, so at least 20. In my view, at least 20.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 3 proposals to put forward. The first comes from Home Share Woodstock, which is a project now spun off from the committee at Family, and then Kurt will introduce the other 2 projects. So we have an immediate term, a midterm, and a long-term proposal covering different kinds of housing solutions. I think everybody is familiar with Home Share. I'm hoping. I don't have to explain the program. I did want to introduce Janice Lamato, who's our project director. We have at this point something like 14 hardworking volunteers doing everything in the program, and Janice's job is herding those cats to make it work, providing the office support, the background check work, getting things paid for, all those kinds of things. We're actually having our first match meeting tomorrow. We have 1 home that's been fully vetted, and we have 9 applicants. I think 6 of them have gone through the whole process. So we hope to make our first match very shortly, but it's a long slog. We had funding this year from the Office for the Aging in New York State, which I think most of you know. And we're looking at an abyss for next year. And the second year is really critical. Every program in the country that is successful tells us that it is making successful matches and having those people speaking out on your behalf that makes the program move forward in geometric increases. So if we can get 2 or 3 matches by the end of our first year, everybody tells us that's tremendous because they got to be good. So we're looking for support for the second year because we feel like after that, we should be able to get foundation support, little bits of money from other places, and the community will see the value as well. It's not an expensive program. It uses existing housing stock, which is its beauty. So that is the narrative in a nutshell. Everybody has a copy. We're asking for 2 things. One is the program operating expenses, and I realize that's an unusual ask in this environment because we won't be coming to you for operating expenses in the future. It's really important that we're able to keep Janice. She's doing lunch and learn series for seniors. She's doing outreach at libraries. She's organizing all of that, and the outreach part of this job, this project is essential. So we're asking for $35,000 for support for year 2. Family covers the other expenses, which we figure there's another double that at least. We also have been told that we've got to have a rainy day fund. That if a match fails and someone needs to get a security deposit to move into a place, if a homeowner needs a minor improvement to make it possible for a home share to be successful, whether it's a small refrigerator or a doorway, that these are things we want to be able to use our money to accomplish. So we're asking for a $6,000 fund for that. So those are our 2 requests.
So, in the beginning, you and I have had this conversation. One of my concerns about funding salaries is that this ARP money, as you point out, it's a one-time initiative. But after talking with you and also Michael Berg, there's a lot of confidence, a high degree of confidence that if we can get you past that second year, that this program is gonna go.
Yes, there are 70 self-sustaining programs in this country. And they do a combination of community support, fundraising, and foundations. So that's what we're looking to.
So the total ask would be 41,000.
Right.
And this would be a grant to family to
Yes.
run, to dedicated to this program.
Yes, family will set aside the grant fund for the rainy day needs
Mhm.
and will administers already all of the other expenses.
Questions from the board at the moment?
Well, I think it sounds, I mean, it sounds great. It sounds, I know you've been working this for a while, and it's great to be a partner with family. It's great that it's already had the funding for the first year. So I know the importance of it. The importance of it is people need places to live. There are people that can only stay in their home if they have somebody who's able to help them if they fall or help them. I mean, there are just things that will help people stay in their homes. So I see it as a win-win in terms of a program. So, yeah.
And that is our applicant profile at this point, both of those things.
Yeah, so it is our, yeah, we'll have to discuss as a board, where else might we want to put the ARP funding, but I think this is clearly an excellent candidate because it can help so many.
So let me just address that for a second. If you look on the agenda, you'll see I have no resolutions on there for tonight. I have no intention.
So we're listening to that.
We're listening tonight. We can talk about it over the next 2 weeks. If we come to some decision, we can have a resolution on in 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay, but I do like the partner with Family of Woodstock, because Family of Woodstock has done so much, not only for Woodstock, for Ulster County. They have many programs, they're just headed the right direction in so many ways.
It's great
All
to
the
have
time.
the support. I agree.
So, thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you for this excellent overview. So as I understand it, what your goal would be then for 2023 would be to have 2 or 3 matches for 2023.
Yeah, I'd
right?
like to have more than that by the end of 2023.
But then what, so I guess that's what, so broaden it out for me, like show me, like,
Another program, other programs.
Yeah, tell me
profiles,
something.
Basically, 2 matches the first year, maybe 3. So we're
Is
getting
that
to
this
the
year?
end of
Is
our
this,
first year.
so 2022 is year 1?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't start till the spring and it's COVID, but yes, this is year 1.
Okay.
So
But,
mid 23 would,
Yeah,
And-
it's really, but once, we feel like once we get the PR and if we get successful matches, we're getting more and more applications every day. And we're doing a lot of outreach. So people say, okay, so 3 the first year and the next year, then it's 12. And after that, maybe by year 5, you've got 40.
so it's an exponential, it's not
Exponential,
really building.
Right. It depends on the population, but that's what people are showing. It would be nice if we could solve all our housing issues with existing housing, but we know that's not possible, so.
And so my question then is, as it grows exponentially, does the budget also grow exponentially?
All of these programs run with volunteers doing all the interviewing and all the vetting and monitoring the matches. So unless we added on services, which some do, financial planning, senior home services, some people do that. I don't see that this is going to cost more every year. We're not going to add services every year. If we can get this going here, we're really happy to be doing that.
That's great, thank you very much.
Good question, Susan. So, but likely you would want to expand that rainy day fund from 6,000 over time as you have more houses kind of that are part of the program. I would imagine, not that every home is going to need
Right. And
to renovate something to
and
make
every-
it work, but I would imagine that might be something. So the $35,000 beyond the second year you won't need, but definitely the rainy day fund will continue. And I imagine you want to expand that beyond 6,000.
we might. I also see that if it's working and we can point to what we pay money
The check
for,
grant funding.
that would be easy to get grant money and
Right.
also public donations, would you help this household get a doorway and then they can take a renter in, It seems like it's not a lot of money. We're not doing major renovations. So, I don't know what level of rainy day fund they have in Burlington for their 40,000
Right.
folks that they service.
Right.
That's
next-
something to find out.
the next program up may also tailor into this as well. I don't know, the next one or the third.
Yeah, thanks for that second.
I will shuffle off the buffalo.
So one thing to add to what Susan was saying is that when the housing committee, first came upon this realization that there were such programs throughout the country, is that this is an excellent way to leverage existing inventory. That was what we felt like was a great thing to look at as a way of, instead of just thinking about building and building, but we think about leveraging existing inventory. And this is an excellent program. The other program, which is more of that was near term, right?
Yeah.
Here's short term, okay? Short term would be to do what we're calling an affordable ADU loan program. When we were first thinking about this, we were thinking just in terms of ADUs in general, but we realized that the amount of, in order to make the most of the loans, that we would focus on attached or in the existing building ADUs. So the retrofitting, the renovations, the money used for that ADU would be far less than if you were building from scratch, in somewhere around the property. So the program, as we're calling it, is an affordable ADU program. The reason why we're saying affordable is we feel like those candidates who would be interested in participating in this would be committed from the beginning to have this be an under market rate ADU. That's the intent. They know that, eyes wide open walking into the deal. So there's an attempt to acknowledge the need for under market ADUs. And then this is a perfect program to bolster that. The program is essentially being, what we're looking at is $20,000 per loan. And we initially were looking at doing 8 loans over a 2-year period. So that was the initial looking at it. And then there's when we looked at possibly this program being under family or other organizations, which is typically like a 10% service charge. And it's a very standard fee for pass-through, if you will, for nonprofits. We're offering to have an 8.5%, so less than that percent per loan to service the loan. When I gave you the document, there was a number of pages on it. The first page was the overview, which you have. The second page gave a projection of what the entire loan would look like over 10 years, okay? And then there was an individual loan document that showed what an individual loan would consist of, right? So the projection is very important to understand here, because this money that we're talking about, this $20,000 per loan, for a total of $175,000, including the service fees in those 2 years, would be enough funds to seed this program to go on and be self-sustaining beyond those 2 years. So within the first 2 years, we show a projection of 9 ADUs. The final ADU, the 9th one, is actually supplied by the program in that second year. So it becomes a self-sustaining program at that point on, and over 10 years, we have 28 affordable ADUs built in this town in 10 years. We haven't done that ever, built that many in this town, ever, in terms of this program. So there's some things we want to speak to about this. It's really, I feel, very important. One is it's sustainable, much like the program that Susan just introduced. Eventually, there's a sustainability to it, and we're not coming back to the hopper all the time, right?
Also a not-for-profit, so you can accept donations.
Right, I was going to get to that.
I'm sorry.
Again, no, it's like a perfect lead-in. So we're asking that this program be managed by a new nonprofit organization in our town. I forwarded to you a press release yesterday of which Woodstock Housing Alliance announced itself. Woodstock Housing Alliance is another idea, thank you for reminding me, is a housing committee idea. It was born there, it was started to percolate there, and then some interested residents picked up the lead and took it in October of last year. We became acknowledged by the state for our New York State nonprofit status. And then in April 14th this year, we were given 501c3 status by the IRS. So we are now a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to building sustainable, achievable homes in our town. And the design of our program, our design of our structure is that we are what is commonly called a community land trust, okay? I'm not gonna get into explaining what a community land trust is, but other than the fact that what we do is we do separate the land from the buildings on the land, forcing a different market dynamic than the typical speculative market, causing those properties to be at a lower affordable rate in perpetuity. So depending on what type of building is on there, but that's the organization, Woodstock Housing Alliance. We're offering this proposal as that we would be the loan manager of this fund. We would facilitate the loans, we would facilitate the process of selecting and then administering the loan. We're in talks with our local bank, which is the credit union, to help, provide any additional support in that regard, but really we will be the administrator of that. And so the main point we're making here is this. It is a targeted loan that will enable a homeowner to take on a low interest loan and with no payments for 6 months, which would give them enough time for renovations to occur and rent to begin, possibly. If not, it can be we can get a C of O. We can start it as when the C of O for that unit is allowed. So that way, we have a guarantee that there's income for that homeowner for this ADU, which would then supply the money for the repayment of the loan, which would be a 5-year repayment. Okay, and we show that in the documents. We have it. So I think it's that the documents we shared with you shows you that this is a sustainable program. This would be more like seed money, if you will, for this program. And then after 2 years, it would have its own life. And every year would either bring 2 or 3 new additional ADUs brought on by the sustainability of this program.
So where Susan talked about $6,000 rainy day fund, that would be replace a refrigerator, fix a heater,
Right.
put a door on to separate the units. Here we're talking about a more substantial renovation, adding a kitchen or another bathroom.
Another bathroom. And then one thing that's interesting is in my mind, I see that this program could work and coincide with the home share program, which further supports the ability for that program to be successful, because those people that would be building, they would be maybe interested in becoming a part of the home share program, right? So there's a match here. There's a collaboration here, if you will, and that not all of those people would maybe join the home share, but some of them would, and that again bolsters this other near-term program as well. Before I go on any further, I just would like to say that I just want to make sure I covered everything, and if there's any questions or concerns, we can speak to.
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
So the low interest loan, interest rates are rising in general. At one
Yes.
point, interest rates were low interest. I know somebody that got a 2.5% mortgage interest rate, but now they're rising. So when you say low interest, are you guaranteeing that capital never go higher than something, or?
Well, for two responses to that. One is the loan will be fixed. It will not be adjustable. So whatever interest rate that we agree to, that's at the beginning of the life of that loan, it'll be maintained like that as fixed interest. Secondly, we can't promise that it will be maintained at 3%, which is what we're projecting. We may not, it will possibly go up, but it still will be below the typical rate that you could gain through a financial institution in this area, right? So I think that's more of the phrase we're looking for, is a phrase that would be lower than available interest rates loans that one could get on their own. Yes, Jeff.
So it's funny, so the modeling we did for the 10-year, 28, 10 years, was a 3% interest rate for the entire time.
It was.
So I modeled at 3%.
Mhm.
So that level, if it's 4%, you give me 2 more houses. That's the only difference. The other thing that I want to is that these will be deed restricted.
Right, that would be something we'd have to work on in terms of it being, so that if the owner of the building, they now have this restriction that enables this to remain affordable, and it can't be changed if there's a sale in the property. And again, the people buying the property would understand that, and so this is a part of the guarantee. One of the things that we've been hearing from the task force is, can we be assured that affordable housing will be built? And this is part of the deed restriction is a tool that we could use within the code. So that's one tool that we could use. There's other tools that this board could begin to adopt other policies that supports that. But that's an important factor that we would need to have that become a part of the plan, unless there's other ways that this board feels like there could be ways in which you could hold the loan owner to remain committed to this program, so it doesn't in 5 years, 3 years become now market rate ADU.
Nice to you.
So,
Reggie or Bennett?
I will have a question.
Okay.
I have a question about it's called the
Woodstock Housing Alliance.
the Woodstock Housing Alliance.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I have no other way to say it, but it's new, it's a great idea, I think it's wonderful. What type of experience does anybody have in loans, developing loan, portfolios of loans, servicing those, working with people to do that? And why did you choose to do it by yourself instead of with an existing agency? I mean, I guess my concern is I think it's a great idea, but I'm really hesitant to hand over $100,000 to a new group.
175.
No,
Calms you down a little, doesn't it?
I mean, quite seriously, I'm completely against handing over $175,000, $100,000, $50,000. I was thinking this was going to be part of something else, and I'm really concerned that the town's fiscal responsibility will come into conflict with a really great innovative idea. So if you could talk to me about that.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think it's an important question to answer. And, the thing is, there's a couple things that Woodstock Housing Alliance has, and that's that we have a board of directors, but we also have an advisory committee. And these are people that are available with this specific subject matter expertise that they would possess in order to be a part of that advisory board. And we definitely will be having, we already have a bank officer that's interested in that role in a local bank, and so we're going to have the team augmented staff, if you will, to provide guidance and support for this program, for this young organization. The other thing is that, how can I say this? I think that you have never been a town board member before, but your prior experience gives you the confidence that you could do this job. And that's why you stood up and volunteered for this job. I have a wealth of experience in managing construction, managing buildings, managing $20 million from the time I've been 30, all the way until now, in terms of multiple funds, millions of dollars that's been part of my career's experience, right? Jeff has experience, he's built a school, he's developed land, so there's a lot of experience here just within the primary board members. And then also augmented staff. So I feel the confidence. I personally would not do this myself because my reputation is important to me. I would not feel comfortable if I didn't have the confidence that I could do this. So the other thing is that will be partnering with our local bank and gaining their support whenever possible. So I am presenting this with a vote of confidence in myself, if you will, and in the organization that's been taking now 2 years to build. And we carefully have constructed an organization that I feel like would support this organization.
I completely understand, but why not spend the extra 1.5% and work with Family of Woodstock?
Well, you know, the thing that the one thing that I feel that's important to understand is that similar to the seed money that Susan's asking for, this in one sense would enable Woodstock Housing Alliance to have a function within our town that is a public-private partnership that this town needs in order to make housing happen. You can't do it on your own. Developers can't do it on their own. They can't afford to build affordable housing. So there's a public-private partnership that needs to exist. And this is an opportunity for this money to be a way to strengthen that public-private partnership for many, many years to come. And many other projects that we're talking about doing as well, not just this type of project. Because we're talking about building homes as well and managing and being property managers of those buildings. So there's a long road to go. There's many skills, many achievements to achieve. I think that this fund would be a way of acknowledging that there's a relationship here between a private nonprofit organization that's dedicated to building housing in this town that's affordable in perpetuity, and this town is committed to that based on its comprehensive plan. So I believe that there's a risk here. I definitely feel like there's a risk here, and yet we're not going to go away. We're here in town. We're going to work together, and we'll continue. And we could have some contingency plan to where if there's some falter, that there's another way of dealing with it. But I'm just saying to you that that's my answer.
I would just think it would be more prudent for you to spin it off after a year and a half, or to spin it off after 2 years, after incubating it with a more established. I mean, and please, I would love to see who the Housing Alliance is, who the members are, I mean, look, I came to your initial meeting. I supported your initial meeting with a contribution. So please don't take me as somebody who is not in favor of this. I just want you to be prudent in the way that we all have aspirations, but sometimes experience is also a good thing to temper it.
Yeah, thank you.
The one thing I
Jeff,
will point out,
yeah.
Bennett, too, is we did talk to the family about the possibility, and they were not inclined to want to manage a program like this.
Yeah, I think that before Jeff speaks, I wanted to speak to that because that's maybe what you're suggesting. Michael Bergen stated it's a little bit outside of the focus of family, this type of situation, whereas this falls right in the sweet spot of what Woodstock Housing Alliance is about. So that's one of the reasons why we didn't turn back and say, can we create a partnership between Michael Berg and myself with this initiative. So that's and Jeff, you have something to add?
Yes, you're going to point out, mentioned to me, and I just want to highlight it here, is that this establishes a land trust in Woodstock, is devoted to Woodstock housing. That's what we need to do this public-private partnership. We need something that is focused right here in this town that's going to allow people to stay here. And this establishes that, creates that, and gives that momentum to start. That's another major advantage of this. And yes, there's always risks in whatever you do. And you look at the people that are managing things, you look at Kurt, who's been active in housing for how many years now and reliable. So I think it is, we're asking for the trust. We're also not against having guardrails on that trust. So depending on whatever is necessary to make the guardrails on that trust work for the town, we're there for it too.
Moreover, there's been hundreds of land trusts across the nation and internationally. We didn't come up with this out of nowhere. We follow different programs that are doing this across the nation.
I completely understand all of your thoughts. I would just ask that you consider our job as a board is to manage the fiscal health, and this is $175,000, and you are a one-year organization. I'm sure that there are probably other housing trusts that would be willing to partner with you to help you on these technical things. I just think it's something you should consider. If you choose not to, I completely understand that as well.
Just also then, we do have a meeting scheduled with the Ulster County planner around that trust. And we're working with Ulster County about this too.
Or did you have another?
Well, I haven't, so I guess my thoughts and questions are, and I probably have something in my inbox, and people may know I've been on vacation, and I am back. So there's probably something in there that already answers this, but I think I'd want to read about your community land trust, your document, like your mission, is your mission Woodstock? Who is on your board? So I don't know if that's already in my inbox or whether you need to send it to me, but I would like to understand more about it. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm excited about the idea. I would love to see it work, but then the questions that I do have are, what role, because the housing committee is the Woodstock Housing Committee. However, the Community Land Trust is not a part of Woodstock. It's not a committee from Woodstock. It's a separate entity. It's going to stand by itself. Well, I can say we as a town board have given money to families in Woodstock, for instance. That's a separate entity that stands by itself. So it wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last, if we were to decide to do this, that we're giving it to a separate entity that's going to stand by itself. So that part, so the part that's worrisome though, is it's a lot of money. We only have so much money that we get from the ARP money. And it's a big question of what is the best use of us delegating the money. So part of my question would be, Community Land Trust, is the mission, we're doing this within the bounds of Woodstock? Or is the mission within the bounds of Worcester County? So are we confident we as a board are helping the town of Woodstock? So that's a question that I would ask by looking at your mission and the statements. So that's kind of a question I would have. We don't have endless ARP money, and $175,000 is a huge chunk. So we would have to really think twice about it, probably more than that. So I think it's a wonderful idea. I would love to see it get off the ground. I would love to see it fly. And so I think it's great that you're here asking us for the money because you're planting the seed for us to be thinking about it. It's a big ask, given that it's probably, what, a third of our total money? So it's a third of our total money, and it's for a hope for the future, whereas some of the money went for, in the middle of COVID, we had town workers who worked through COVID. This office never closed. The clerk's office never closed through COVID. We gave, veterans bonuses, but there's stuff that we did that was really directly in thanks to people that have been helping Woodstock. And this is a vision for the future, and I think it's excellent. I would love to see it succeed. It's a big ask based on the percentage of the money that we have, and we have to think about it. My answer is not no. My answer is I'm thinking about it and sharing my worries. And I think seeing your mission statement would help. And I agree with everything you said. I work with you on the plot plan. I work with you on the housing. There's nobody better. There's a lot of great people in Woodstock, but nobody better than what I've seen you personally do. Same with Ken. Nobody better there. So I trust the people on the board, but it's a big ask and we have to.
So what I would ask Kurt is to go back. You've heard the concerns, the issues. Nobody has said no way. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing that, that you're a new organization. And so I would ask you to go back and let's flesh this out a little bit more and answer some of these questions. And maybe even meet individually or with two of the board members at a time and see how we can flesh this out further.
I have one more idea if I may, but Reggie, go ahead.
Let's project, like if you cut it in half and let's see what those numbers, I mean, I know obviously you want more, but is there a way to give us projections just for?
Why don't we talk about the different scenarios, so we don't make them up ourselves and come up with what might be.
Right.
So if it was
something that would work, and then if it, so we could look at that, right? We can
just
look at that.
I have one more. Go on. I wonder whether it's possible to get letters of interest, because part of this flying is having property owners who want ADUs and would be willing, because you've got the boundaries, the constraints. Well, they're not going to be, they can't be market rate, they have to be lower.
Right,
They have to be, if you had letters of interest, not that they're committing, but letters of interest may also show how viable is this program in Woodstock.
Okay, Susan, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because I did speak, I'm the one that spoke to Michael Berg. First of all, when we began the housing committee, it was clear that the town did not have an appetite to become a housing authority. Town did not want to manage housing projects, anything like that. So when you look around the country at what everyone does, you have to have a nonprofit that manages housing to get anything done. We're woefully behind the times here, so we need to start, and so this is our start. When I spoke to Michael Berg about family doing this program because he was interested in some aspect. We realized that to be Woodstock, they're gonna have to do everything that the Housing Alliance is going to do, which is establish a board of Woodstockers, to be the relationship with the local bank, to be able to vet people who are applying for this particular fund or for anything else. And so this is, again, an investment in a Woodstock entity that is gonna be totally focused on housing here, that the town did not want to take on itself. So the committee felt that the three legs of this stool, you know, one was a land trust, one was zoning revisions, and the other was a home share program, that these were the things that could get housing going. So this is key as
One of the other things maybe as you continue to flesh this out that you could consider is that perhaps the town not hand over a check for $175,000 immediately, but that we set aside $175,000. And then as you approve each loan application, the town would cut the check to you that you would then use.
That's how it's modeled. It's actually modeled to do one loan in a couple of months. And we don't need the money until the loan happens.
Right.
So.
But the town could hold it in a separate account that is interest bearing, and that interest bearing would fold back into the.
Forgive me for not making that clear, and then maybe that would be a better, that would allow this to sit a little bit better in your mind too, that the town is actually holding the funds. And then we are under monitor, we're being monitored by the success of this event, of this unfolds, and so you would have control of that time. Basically.
The ARP funds actually need to be allocated by 2024 and need to be spent by 2027 now. They modified that. So there is room for that. I appreciate your considerations. Thank you.
Yeah.
The last,
Okay. The last one is a little bit more straightforward, I think. This is the long-term portion of allocating funds for housing. There's some town-owned land on Xena. It's 32 acres. It's actually never been surveyed. There. And so there's an interest in this site being viewed. It was reviewed at one point by during the time when they were looking at for a site for Bradley Meadows. Woodstock Commons. Which is next door to Bradley Meadows. Because it didn't have town water and sewer at the time, Repco was not interested, it fell off their list of feasibility. This land is, I think, very, there needs to be some funding in order for this land to be made available for housing. And that infrastructure is what we're talking about. So the idea of the infrastructure cost, the development of the infrastructure. So the idea of this fund.
What am I doing?
A request for qualifications coming from the town. It's typically like an RFP, request for proposal. But in this case, it's a request for qualifications of given developers. And they state that they have the qualifications to develop this land. And then what that RFQ actually does is it makes it so that the developer has to come up with the plans and the design of it. And that's more of a common thing. The county does the same thing. They call it a statement of qualifications. So this is more like the trend, if you will, rather than just telling people what you want them to build, and they just come in and try to build it as cheaply as possible so they can get their spread. This is a different approach to that. So part of that RFQ would be the town's commitment to offer $199,000 for the development of the infrastructure of that property. So what that means is access, water, sewer, and that money then would be an incentive for the developer, because that's probably the biggest lift of risk associated with for a developer, any of the developers. But before they would build anything, they would have to spend all that money on infrastructure. And should that project fail in that regard, then they would be, that money would go, right?
And just to be clear, it's not to build the water necessarily or the sewer, it's to understand what it would cost to do it.
Right.
It's not enough money to do the actual.
It actually
But the engineering to
The
develop.
engineering, the design, the site survey, all the things, the perks, which we already have a perk test from 2003, which may be the same. But all of the factors associated with enabling the developer to come in and say, okay, that cost is covered. Now I can focus on actually doing the development of it. So the housing committee, we worked on building a template before some of the board members were here. On creating a template RFQ. The housing committee did that, we reviewed it, and we have that. That RFQ would be drafted for your review sometime in the coming weeks and months in the fall. And that would enable you to have further evaluation of this program. But that's where these funds would be embedded. That's where these funds would be then offered, is in that project. Now, that project is probably a 2024, maybe an initial spend of 2023, right? On some of the early funds, and then 2024 building. So it's definitely down the road as far as that. But it is a commitment to building, and that land could easily be, clusters of achievable homes. And in neighborhood settings, each of them with walkways in between and access to the because it is where it is, there's public transportation there as well. So it's an ideal site for people to not have to own a vehicle to be there. So that's the third proposal, would be through an RFQ that would come from this town.
And I'll just say again, that money could be held by the town
Absolutely.
in an account dedicated to this, the more interest, and is paid out as the bills came in from the engineer. Any questions from the board?
Well, I'm thinking we might not have any money. We might be overspending what we have between
No.
proposal 1, 2, and 3.
We won't. We'll have a couple bucks left over.
2 and 3.
A
No.
little bit more than that. About 5,000.
I mean, cool ideas though. Definitely.
Well, thank you
Cool
for
ideas.
your attention this evening. We hope that we can continue these conversations and address the concerns you've expressed.
I
Definitely interested in doing
do have
that.
a question about the third one. Why that particular project? Why didn't you just put an infrastructure fund aside and then ask who's interested in developing which particular town projects? Why did you zero in on that one?
Yeah, good question. We were looking at town-owned land. That's the narrow, and there's very little town-owned land that's buildable. That's in this way. That is distinctly a possibility that there could be just a fund, and we would then have it available for when a developer walks into town and says, I want to build here. That's a little bit more of a open-ended scenario. I don't really see that there's any certainty in that.
So are there other sites that are possibilities?
So there's a couple of more lots down there in Xena, one on the other side of the Sudbury School, but that access is a little bit more difficult, a little further off the road. And
Very expensive to gain access to that property.
yeah, and then there's a third 30+ acre lot there, which is similar. There's also 10 acres, 8 or 10 acres behind Andy Lee Field, which
Simmons,
on
Amanda
off of Simmons. That's a little wet. Not sure that how much we can get in there. I'll get to you one in a second, Deborah. There's also 10 acres over by the Xena Swim Club,
Xena Highwoods Road.
which might be able to take 4 or 5 units
These are
there.
private properties?
No, these are all
These are all
town
town-owned
properties.
lands, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see the options rather than just zeroing in on one particular property, so that we can make an informed decision as the stewards of the land, which ones we feel, and maybe it's more than one, maybe it's 2. I don't like picking winners,
So
And
I
that-
think
that-
to address that, what you're saying is that you're interested in committing these funds for infrastructure development, which is one of the things that this town has been, really needs in order for quote unquote a shovel-ready project, right? Whenever these opportunities come up, it's the infrastructure cost that really enables that to happen. And so I'm glad to hear that you're interested in committing funds for infrastructure development, and I'm open to however, whether it's town-owned land or another form of, of way, but it's the management of those funds to ensure that the infrastructure in our town gets done, because developers, frankly, they're gonna scare away if the land is as raw as it is, and there isn't then some kind of backing by the town. So thank you for being interested in having infrastructure costs go into this, and we'll figure out what that looks like.
Before, I just want to get into a lot of back and forth, but Deborah, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to add, and just in thinking about your questions, Bennett, and how to evaluate the town lands with just by the housing committee, basically got the information initially from the assessment's office and from we got as much information as we could on what lands the town owned. Looked at maps, did some gross evaluation. We didn't, do surveying and stuff like that. And so I think we would be happy to share with you that information to just give you that background so you understand how we focus in on what was the best option of town-owned lands, which are very limited.
Very.
I appreciate that. I would love to, I would love to have that.
It's been a
briefing.
while, it's been a while since we did that work, but it certainly would help inform you.
So I will leave it to you two to set up some time to do that. And any other board member that wants to
Well,
participate.
sure, I mean, I don't know why they can't come back with part two, because I had some questions also.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the questions I have, a couple of questions. One is for this particular lot, I forget how much road frontage it is. I know that we want to keep the environment protected as much as possible, so if there has to be a long road,
No,
if there's a lot of road frontage that's all
It's-
collected by the road, then that's not hurting the environment.
There's a road that Rosina turns from Stewart's and then goes north, if you will, down towards Sudbury School and stuff. Right at that turn is a Delicio.
DeAndrea.
Little dead end roads, probably 2 houses on it. That's where the land comes up again. So it's right on the road, if you will. And then it goes that way along 28, and then a little bit to the north as well. So but that's the beginning. So there is no that one of the reasons why that makes that land so attractive is that it's because it's right on the road. You don't have to build. You don't have to spend most of the money just on the road to get to the land.
Okay, but it says,
Which is what the other site is, that's on the other side of Sudbury School, which is 2 lots, total 74 acres.
so then the other questions, 2 more questions. So one question is, and I think it'll be of interest, Ben's question, if you have the different properties, what do you think? I'd be interested to know how many dwelling units you think you might get, or how many apartments, or would it be an apartment building, would it be a condo, would it be a 8-unit? So I'd be interested to know how many you think you might get based on the zoning of the area, and then based on, we have the current zoning law, and we all know, Jeff and Kirk and Deborah and I all know about the housing oversight task force law, so it might be good to say, hey, with the current law, here's how many units you might get, and here's how many you might get with the new housing law.
Yeah.
So I think it might be good to be able to say, as you all help us understand the different properties, what the opportunity is with the properties. But then my other question would be, I wonder whether, my worry is how much ARP funds, because your requests are all very valid and they're excellent requests, but it's chewing up a lot of ARP funds. For this particular initiative, might there be other grants or other things that could help? Maybe you take of the 199,000, maybe not all of it is ARP fund, maybe half of it's ARP fund, and half of maybe there's another grant that you could reach out for that would fill it in, because I do worry a little bit about all the ARP money. Just your causes are all excellent, but spending all the money in one place, it seems like we're not being good stewards of the money if we do that. So it'd be great if there was other places.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to that, Laura, is that we're talking about spending short-term, near-term, long-term.
Right.
that long-term is like within 5 years, we're gonna have housing, we're gonna have projects. So that's not a long time. And it's all oriented around housing, which is a vital
It's like,
necessity
I agree.
of our
I-
town. So that's the only reason why I would say that. Any other time I would say if we weren't in that, I would say, what do we spend on housing for? But there's a need for this. And I'm not pressing for it to be exactly like this, but I think that today starts a conversation, is really what we're saying. And then allow that conversation to continue to evolve and come up with something that we all feel comfortable with, that looks at these various aspects of short, near, long term for housing, that we can put our arms around and embrace.
The question of what the density can be on that property may be based on the layout of the property. We don't know well enough to answer
Right.
the question.
Well, I'm not asking for specific, I'm not asking for stuff that you don't have an engineer yet, so you're not gonna give a perfect answer, but you're gonna have a general answer because you know how many acres it is it, what district is it in? You'll have some kind of answers that have to be confirmed by the engineer.
But I think that Jeff is pointing out that there will be other constraints besides the zoning, besides those things that have to specifically to do with the site.
Sure.
The bedrock of it, the shelving rock of it, whether or not there's a, where's the field, how far is the field gonna be to have a network of runoff system? It's just very complex.
With R5, include the right 926. Under the new zoning code plans, you can do a lot more.
Or we can do the plans
6 different lots.
residential.
Yeah. 6 different lots that can have multiple units on each lot. But anyway, so the thing is that we're starting a conversation tonight. That's what this is for. Thank you for your attention this evening. I
Thank you.
really appreciate you, your interest in this. And we'll do our best to respond to all the concerns that come up with a second and third proposal.
Okay.
We have before you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Great work by the housing committee.
Yeah.
So, thank you, housing committee.
Thank you.
Right, everyone. Thanks for your
I don't know if it's full or not. I need you to put your name down, but the first 3 are guaranteed. After that, I don't know what Ashley's got.
I think the 2 people on for us, if they're in the chat.
It's full. It's full. Thank you.
So now I'm gonna move to reopen the public hearing on the CEA. Any members of the public that wanted to speak on the CEA? Going once, right?
I have Susie on Zoom.
Okay. Susie, you wanted to address the CEA?
Susie?
Just
Can you
unmute
hear
yourself. There you go. Hi, Susie.
Hi. Yes, I really would like to speak. This is Susan Kessler. My home is in the town of Woodstock and it's situated on 11.11 acres on Maury Hill Road. In the 36 years I have taken care of this land and its wild animals as family. I know how many people with many generations past of family living in the Bluestone Forest. And we all will not let anything or anyone destroy the majestic beauty and special conservation needed to protect all of it. We don't know where the CEA came from or who you all are to decide we can and cannot do what we want to with our own land. Woodstock has many rules and regulations and zoning restrictions and wetland restrictions protecting it. We don't need the CEA to come in and inject themselves into our lives and lands. We have protected it for generations and will still do so. Public lands are one thing, private lands are another. We have no idea where you came from or who alerted you to this need. It's beyond all of us. There is no need. Woodstock has taken care of this itself. I also think the owners of the land should be the ones voting yes or no, not the town board on whether to accept or decline a CEA designation.
Thank you, Susie. Anyone else, Ashley?
Hang on, I'm-
Yeah. Anyone here in the public?
Oh, Peter's got his hand raised.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yes,
Line back up.
hello, members of the town board and members of the Woodstock Environmental Commission and members of the CEA group. And thank you all for being here. My name is Peter Cross. I'm the chairman of the planning board. And I'd like to thank the town board for considering the proposal to create a critical environmental area classification for the area of town called, for the purposes of this proposal, Xena Woods. This is a regionally significant intact forest and wetland area flanking the Sawkill Stream corridor and encompassing approximately 2,290 acres to the east of John Joy Road and Xena Road. It contains exceptionally ecological resources, including unusual high-quality forest and connected wildlife habitat. Ecological services include flood mitigation, climate change resilience, and natural beauty. An underlying aquifer might in the future become a water source for the town. I am a local native of this town and grew up on the Peter Whitehead farm on Upper Bird Cliff. Our pastures were between Glasgow Turnpike and Route 212, when most of that land was pasture. It was usually very wet pasture that was hard to walk over. Now I see it has all been changed. I see assault on our environment everywhere I look. As a land surveyor, I hike all over town, traversing the hills and mountains and valleys to survey lands for subdivision and development. Then in the office, the engineers and surveyors divide up the land to the best financial advantage of the client. In most cases, environmental concerns are underplayed. Then the planning board is presented with a fully prepared and engineered site plan that may develop the land to the financial advantage of the applicant, but will damage the environment. The planning board has to then argue and haggle to improve the plan. Because the planning board is obligated to take environmental protection into account, the applicant has to start all over and ask what can they do with their property. They may argue it is their right to do as they wish on their land. But the planning board is required to recognize and prevent decisions that damage the environment. If due diligence was practiced, developers would check first with the planning board before developing their plans. This would save time and money. Having a designated environmental area would help developers and landowners to plan properly from the start. Often, the plans presented show watercourse buffers measured from the center line of the creek. That is not correct. By law, the buffer starts from the top of the stream bank. Watercourses should have adequate buffers determined by a certified wetland and watercourse inspector. I have seen what landowners often do to the land after getting approval. I have seen them take meandering watercourse and ditch it straight with retaining walls and then put their patio right on the watercourse. I have seen that after getting lot approval with the wetlands delineated, someone later on fills the buffer and wetland for lawns and recreational courts. There needs to be better oversight by the Woodstock Wetlands and Watercourse Inspector. We need to protect our town's environment and way of life. In addition, Woodstock's forest lands are part of the worldwide forest canopy, which we must protect if we are to do our part to help mitigate global climate change. Some landowners may wonder why they are the only ones to get designated in a CEA. Not so. We already have designated CEAs based on regulated wetlands and the scenic overlay. The Wetlands and Watercourse Law was a very good extension of the CEA designation, making protection of those areas enforceable. The next best step is to create additional CEAs and show them on the town map. Having the Xena Woods designated as a critical environmental area will give developers a heads up before they make their plans. The CEA, although not itself enforceable, could provide a basis for legal protection like the scenic overlay and the wetlands and watercourse laws already do. Folks in the Xena Woods may ask what the planning board would do different if a subdivision is in a CEA. So if a project comes before the planning board in the Xena Woods CEA, the board may ask that a forester be involved in the planning process. And the board can then look at the entire CEA in the review process, allowing for habitat corridors and environmental protections. Also, the Woodstock Environmental Commission should be included in the review of applications in the CEA. I also propose that within the CEA, wetlands should have additional protection by merging wetlands that are within 100 feet and their associated buffers, because they fill our aquifers. Again, this would require town board action and is not mandated by creating a CEA. Having a CEA designation would alert developers, engineers, and the planning board to review new issues that need attention during development. Health, safety, and welfare for our citizens must include healthy environment for all. Designating the Xena Woods CEA would be a good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Ashley, anybody else online? No? Anyone here? State your name for the record.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to come up or should I just yell from the back?
You can.
Okay, hi, I'm
Yeah,
Alex.
Yeah, the mics are
Alonso.
here, the mics are here.
She's right here.
Hi, I'm the chair of the Environmental Commission. As you know, we've been working on this for a very long time, and I just wanted to speak to a couple of things because I heard some questions about where this came from. Some of you have heard this presentation a number of times, some of you have never heard this presentation. So I'm just going to give a very brief 2-second answer to that. And then, so about a year and a half ago, in January of 2021, the planning board actually reached out to the Environmental Commission asking whether we would look into this on their behalf, because the year before we had completed the natural resources inventory, we had this wealth of information about the environmental makeup of the town and where our resources lay. We applied for and received one of only 3, I think, communities in Ulster and the surrounding counties to receive training from the Hudson River Estuary Program of the DEC and also Hudsonia. So this was not a random group of people working on this. This was under the guidance of a lot of trained experts, looking at things like the habitat mapping project from, I think, 2012, the natural resources inventory, comprehensive plan, and that is how we ended up zeroing in on this area. It wasn't a random decision. It had a lot of, Peter kind of mentioned all of the ecological benefits that are there. So, and one of the things that we also noticed about that area was that it was one of the few areas in town that had that many ecological benefits, but without really any protections. Everywhere else in the town, there are a lot of stronger protections for a lot of our land. So that's kind of the background of where this came from. I hope that answers the question that came up. The one thing that I think to me is one of the most important things about the CEA and what we learned doing the outreach for it is that the residents in the area, Xena, are so proud of their land. And a lot of them have lived there for a long time and they had nothing but these amazing things to say about it and how amazing this land was. And when, you know, projects come before the planning board, I don't know if a lot of you ever go to planning board meetings, but they, you know, they have to look at each project on a site-by-site basis. So you really end at the end of that lot and you're not looking at what's going on outside. So the establishment of the CEA will ask the planning board, really make them take the time to look at the entire area outside of the lot lines and think about, you know, what trees are over here? Where does the wildlife go? Where are the wetlands over here? And not just the specific lot. And I think that that really is, to me, one of the biggest benefits of this. And so with that being said, we've been working on this, where I said, for a year and a half. We've had members from the town board on this working group, members of the planning board, members of the Woodstock Land Conservancy, members of the Environmental Commission. And I sent around the resolution to you guys a couple of times, and I really hope that the town board will consider passing this and adopting the CEA. I think it's a finished and very strong product, so.
Thank you, Alex. Any other members here who want to speak? Please state your name for the record.
Steve Gentili. I'm a Saugerties resident here in support of other folks that are here for a project that's pretty obvious by the.
Is this about the CEA?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful idea. The project that I'm here to support the people. Talk about the terminal project.
We're talking about the CEA.
Yes, I am getting there. I'm Italian, so we.
Okay. Let's get to the chase.
I'm getting there. 75 acres. It's very close to where the CEA is as well. It has a lot of the elements that the CEA land has, that I think it's wonderful that you were taking the time to care about something bigger than the dollar.
Thank you.
Bigger than the profit. I think that could be a really wise.
Thank you. Anyone else want to talk about the CEA?
When it's our turn, I want to say something.
I am going to adjourn the hearing to the call of the chair. And I do have to rework the resolution. There are some adjustments that need to be made in there, and I'll have that for our next meeting.
The next one, great.
Can I say something?
Yes. Sure.
So I do want to say from my experience on the comprehensive plan, I was one of two liaisons for the town board on the comprehensive plan. When we did the surveys, two huge messages that came from the people of Woodstock. One is protect the environment, the open spaces, protect it. And one of them was housing. And I'm delighted that in this meeting, we're focusing on both things. So I think both things are extremely important. And as a reminder, because I know Alex has given several presentations at either the town board or over the Xena Firehouse. And the importance, as Alex just touched on here, was there are a lot of environmentally important places in Woodstock. The DEP protects some of them, the scenic overlay protects some of them. The thank you, nobody can see me now, that's all right. So the I think it's extremely important to give protections where we don't already have protections. As Peter noted, this is not a law, but it's a statement of how things ought to be. And it's extremely important to remember that the CEA is a statement of how things ought to be. And the people of Woodstock spoke loud and clear when we did the comprehensive plan survey to say protect the environment. So I heard the people say that at the comprehensive plan time, and I believe the people of Woodstock in general still want to protect the environment.
Thank you. Reggie, any comments?
I just want to thank the CEA members for their diligence, and I want to thank the planning board for bringing this to the attention of the town. Some people might ask, like, why would the planning board bring this to the attention of the Woodstock Environmental Commission? And I think that this is an excellent opportunity for parts of the town to work together cooperatively. I see the planning board and the Woodstock Environmental Commission working cooperatively on protecting one of our most beautiful parts of the town. And I just want to commend both of those organizations for doing it. And I'm hopeful that the town board will join with them in passing the CEA.
Thank you, Bennett. Okay, we're going to wrap up the meeting with a few resolutions, and then we'll have public be heard. Be resolved to hire Madison Van Kuren as a part-time dispatcher at a rate of $22.53 effective August 3rd, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be resolved to schedule a public hearing of proposed amendments of chapter 260 zoning law of the town of Woodstock, New York, adding an additional permitted use to the LI district for August 23rd, 2022 at 7:10 PM. Town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York. and also via Zoom. And be it further resolved to authorize the town clerk to publish in the town's official newspaper the following notice: the town board, Woodstock Town Board, in a meeting held on August 9th, 2022, scheduled a public hearing for August 23rd, 2022 at 7:10 PM at the town offices, 45 Como Drive, Woodstock, New York, and via Zoom to hear comment on the proposed amendments to Chapter 260, the zoning law, Town of Woodstock, New York, adding additional permitted uses to the LI district.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be resolved to accept the resignation. Oh, shit, done this. Be it resolved to accept the resignation of Kirk Ritchie from the Complete Streets Committee, and be further resolved to thank him very much for his tremendous service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to authorize the attached lease, you all got this emailed, agreement with the Christian Science Church, the town of Woodstock, and the Good Neighbor Food Pantry. And whereas the signing of a lease is subject to permissive referendum as it relates to Article 7 in the New York State Town Law, be it further resolved, the town clerk is directed to place the following notice in the official newspaper of the town. On August 9th, 2022, Woodstock Town Board adopted a resolution authorizing the signing of a lease between the town, the Christian Science Church, and the Good Neighbor Food Pantry. This resolution is subject to permissive referendum pursuant to the provisions of Article 7 New York State law, town law, by order of the Woodstock Town Board.
Second.
And so this is a continuation. The lease has been a success. They've been down there since last year, and everybody is very happy. The church reviewed and discussed, and they felt they wanted to go for a 2-year lease at the same monies. So this will extend it a little bit, and Food Pantry is equally happy.
Okay, so quick question. So except for the now be a 2-year lease, is there any change to the lease?
It's $2,000 a year. All the other provisions stay intact, and it'll go for 2 years. All in favor? Aye. Town clerk, do you have some public be heard?
Let me ask Ashley. Ashley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I have 3 that signed up prior to the start of the meeting. Do you have 2 that signed up prior to the start of the meeting?
Yeah, I have 2.
Yeah, but one of them I thought already spoke at the public hearing. I thought.
Nope, there's 2.
Hold on. Go ahead, Ashley.
I did tell Susie she was part of the public hearing, so there are 2 besides her.
Okay.
Okay. So let me do my 3 here, and then you do your 2.
Okay.
Okay. Susan Painter, 2 minutes.
So everybody's gonna get 2 minutes, and I time you. So come on up, Susan. No, I'll tell you when I start.
Don't start the time.
I won't, unless you do.
I just want to say,
Ready?
first of all,
Hold on, ready,
ready, set.
set, go.
I want to say, first of all, thank you. I'm proud to live in a town that puts the environment as a priority. And it was great hearing from Alex when she shared that we don't just look at a lot, we look at what's around the lot. The town of Saugerties is proposing a resort in a neighborhood that is adjacent to and on the border of Woodstock. The proposal includes 90 structures on 77 acres. It's called Terramore, and it's a resort. These 90 structures include a swimming pool, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a wellness center, 75 campsites, each with their own bathroom and shower. It includes a maintenance area, maintenance center, fire pits at each site. And our concern is that, as Alex alluded, things don't just stop on a border. And so fire hazards from 75 fire pits don't stop on a town border. And fire pit smoke that contaminates the air doesn't stop on the town border. And the change to the wetlands and water usage and water quality
and drainage don't change on a border. These structures come, 40% of them come 100 feet from Raybrook Avenue, Raybrook Drive, rather. We're also very concerned about the traffic. The traffic is not going to be just in Saugerties because it's on 212, which is already a highly trafficked area.
15 seconds.
15 seconds, and I want to thank Bennett for being so responsive when I ask these questions. And we have some other folks, a lot of people are on Zoom and others here tonight who wanted to also share some concerns about Terramore. How did I do? Made it?
Excellent.
All right.
The model, there you go, 201. It was 2, but it took me a second to hit it.
Michael Colbert.
Reset. Come on up, Michael.
Okay, we'll always take 15 seconds.
Ready?
I want to talk about the wetlands area at Terramore. The Terramore property butts up against Woodstock. And they have 12 designated wetland areas, 9 acres, I think it's 10 acres are wetlands of the 79 acres that they're proposing. They're going to use the wetlands offset program, swap wetlands from the Terramore to another part of the state. And there is a wetlands Terramore border that's likely to be, that is contiguous with the wetlands in Woodstock. So there's a shared, perhaps a shared wetlands area. So that's all I have to say about wetlands and Terramore.
Michael, thank you. You did really well. Jackie?
Renee Rothbach.
Renee?
Hi.
How are you?
Good for you. I'm in a pinch position.
Lots.
Who's going to start?
Tell me when you're ready.
Okay, good. I also would like to talk about Terramore, following my neighbors here. Terramore 75 campsites. Some of them have like 5 people inside. You know, any tent is within 100 feet of our homes. And it is a very residential area, even though there's a lot of nature that they're planning to build and take over. So we're also concerned about noise. You know, we have a ravine that connects many of our homes, and I could hear so much that goes on, like coyotes, dogs barking, and they can be like half a mile away, but I hear it. So there's a really big concern around the noise, how noise is going to travel with over 200 people flowing in and out during high season, which is well over 6 months. I think it's like April through like October, something like that there's going to be a lot of flow as well as the traffic, because it is a highly trafficked area. But the noise, the construction, they're proposing like weddings, there's going to be music. And, you know, they've already stated that there's going to be some level of mitigation with like noise, but at the same time, we're left feeling very vulnerable, and this is shared land. This is happening in Saugerties, but it's also happening in Woodstock. They bought the land in Saugerties, but this is happening in Woodstock. So we just wanted you guys to know about it as well. So,
Thank you. You did really well too.
thank you.
Ashley.
Mary Nevins.
Tell me when you're ready, Mary.
I'm ready. Did the clock start?
2 minutes, go.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to say is I know that this is bordering on Woodstock, and a lot of what's happening is happening in Saugerties, but it's going into Woodstock. But I think that you, as a group, and I've stayed for the last hour and listened, so you seem like you're very impressive to me, would have a lot more of an impact on the Saugerties board if you address them. And so I don't know if that's possible, but I think us as individuals, like we've put signs up and down 212 and people have taken them down. And it's just the only way in and out is going to be on 212, which is going to cause a lot of traffic. They're taking so many trees down. I mean, it's gosh, I wrote down notes here, but now the clock's ticking. Oh, so I wanted to talk about the love knots that we have in Saugerties and Woodstock, right? It says 2 towns, 1 community. And I really believe that this project is not going to just affect 1 town. It's going to affect the entire community. So thank you for listening. And I hope that you'll consider addressing the Saugerties board about your concerns as well.
Thank you,
That's it.
Mary.
You're welcome.
And the last speaker, Ashley?
Is Gay.
Are you gay?
Sorry.
Dude. Hey, can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. Guess what? I'm going to talk about trees again. Last time you tabled a suggestion to transfer some funds, and there was confusion about the funds as to whether they had something to do with artists. And it turned out that $3,900 of the funds were from an old planting fund, $500 were from a bail leftover money, and $80 were having to do with Ernst Fraser. Today I called the nursery I was hoping to order trees from, because they had told me before that they are running low. And indeed, they only have like 2 elms left and a few oaks. If we're going to do any planting this year, we have to do it now, the order. Otherwise, we're talking about waiting till next year. So that's what I had to say.
Call me tomorrow and tell me how much those trees cost.
Okay,
Okay, we'll talk tomorrow.
okay,
Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Okay. I'm just gonna end the meeting by saying, I want you all to know that, you know, town supervisors, we get together once a month, we talk a lot, we work together. We do have an unwritten code where we try to be careful not to cramp into other towns. But I can tell you that Fred Costello and I spend a lot of time, we've spent a lot of time talking about this project. So it's not that we're ignoring it. There are discussions, and, you know, I have not come right out and say, you know, Fred, you can't do this, don't do this. But we are having these discussions, so. And I would urge you all to continue to unite and make a presence down at the Saugerties Planning Board. So with that, adjournment,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ashley.
So, we should stop recording.
See you, Ashley.